As you're listening, don't forget to check out the Professional Amateurs podcast on YouTube. And while you're there, hit like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 26 of Professional Amateurs. Ryan, you've got sirens going in the background. What's going on?
Apparently, there's a big police chase going on around my house, so I'll just mute up here for the.
And you just got your mic too, so now it's going to catch it all. If there was ever a time to not have the new mic, it would have been this one.
Okay, I think they got him, guys.
They got him. If anyone's watching the news right now and it's showing Halifax, well, not right now.
We'll try and get an interview.
we could be try to be reporters. I guess we need a timer for these. So we're gonna do the Pacific Division previews. We're gonna do the Central Division shortly after, but this is gonna be episode 26 just for the Pacific Division. Should be an interesting division. There's definitely a clear-cut top 3 or 4 and definitely some bottom dwellers, but yeah, we'll get right into it. So here, let me just set this timer. We got 3.5 minutes for the Seattle Kraken. Disappointing first year for the Kraken, to say the least. Expectations were sky high after what Vegas did 5 years ago. People thought the Kraken would be good. They signed Grubauer. That didn't work out. They had what seemed to be a good tandem with Chris Driedger. Didn't work. But they have reinforcements coming in this offseason. They bring in Andre Burakovsky on a 5-year contract at 5.5 per year as a UFA. They acquire Oliver Bjorkstrand from Columbus in a cap dump. Bjorkstrand has 4 years left at $5.4 million, a bargain deal, and I'm pretty sure they only gave up a third and a fourth. They bring in Martin Jones to add some depth, I suppose, probably as like a third string goalie behind Driedger and Grubauer, unless there's an injury I don't know about. And they bring in Justin Schultz on a 2-year, $3 million contract per season, so $6 million total. Definitely some improvements. The top 6 looks really good. How do you guys feel about their offseason? I guess they also bring in Shane Wright, drafted 4th overall. I forgot to do prospects, so throw that in there. Ryan, how do you feel about Seattle?
Yeah, I feel very good about Seattle. I was ready to hop in there and absolutely correct you that you missed a huge piece there, but I liked the moves that they made. Like, Bjorkstrand is an incredible pickup for that price. Yeah. Very underrated player in the league, so love that. Beniers is just going to grow more. I think Wright will, he's supposed to play NHL games, right?
I don't know. Do we consider Beniers an addition though?
No, but I'm just saying he's going to take another step, right?
Did he burn a year? How many games did he play? He did? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, never mind.
Yeah, he had 9 points in 10 games. So
that's sick, actually.
So I think he's going to have a great year. If Wright's in the NHL, I think we're going to see a revenge tour. But their forwards are actually looking pretty darn good. Their defense is just
we're not talking about
bad. But yeah, that's how I feel about them right now.
Jack, what do you got on the Kraken?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add. I think it was definitely a step in the right direction, but it's going to be another year or two before they do any damage, I think.
I missed an opportunity to say let's get Kraken on the Kraken, but that's fine.
Should we restart? Because that would be so funny.
Ryan, what does their top 6 look like? I know they'll have probably Beniers and what's his name?
Gord.
McCann. Oh, and Gord. They actually look pretty good down the middle.
Yeah. So let me read out their forwards to you. Yeah, so right now, this is without Wright in there if he does take a spot. So currently their first line as of cap friendly is Jaden Schwartz, Matthew Beniers, Jordan Eberle. Second line is Jared McCann, Yanni Gord, and Andre Burakovsky. Third line is Oliver Bjorkstrand, Alexander Wenberg, and Brandon Tanev. And their fourth line is Ryan Donato, Morgan Geekie, and Jonas Donskoy. So really not terrible.
That's a really good forward group.
Right?
No,
really not terrible.
There's no superstar on that team, but that's a really deep forward group. Like, that bottom 6 is really good.
It's great. It's a very balanced lineup.
Which line did they have Beniers on? Second?
They have him on the first.
Oh, okay. And then so I guess they don't have Shane Wright in there. I don't know if he's going to play this year. He probably gets 9 games to start.
I definitely think he'll get 9 games. I think he'll get sent back to junior. He did miss like a key development year for COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to Kingston, work on consistency.
Should be pretty interesting. Seattle looks good. I like the idea of them having Beniers and Shane Wright down the middle for the next 10 to 15 years.
Their D is so bad though.
Their D is nasty, but I mean, they're in year 2 of an expansion team, so they can figure that out. All right, let's place them in the Pacific. I've got them 6th. I believe they were dead last in the division last year. So slight improvements, especially with some of the other teams looking like they're definitely going to take a step back. And I really like their odds, but I still don't think they push for a playoff spot. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I have them 7th.
Okay.
I do see them kind of moving over at least one team for sure with those forwards. I think they're definitely going to win a lot more games. But keeping the puck out of the net is still going to be very difficult for this team. So 7th, definitely out of the playoffs.
What do you got, Jack?
This episode's gonna suck. I also have them 6.
You got them 6?
Yeah.
There you go. Ryan's the odd one out. So none of us really see them making a big push, but definitely improvement over like bottom 3 team in the NHL from a season ago. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks, definitely some exciting young talent on this team. They bring in Ryan Strome on a 5-year contract worth $5 million a year. They bring in John Klingberg on a 1-year show me deal, $7 million. I'm expecting a big year from him in a massive role for the Ducks. And they also bring in Frank Vatrano, 3 years, $3.65 million per season. And it's very likely Mason McTavish will be with the team for the full season. So we can consider him an addition as well. Probably going to be a rookie of the year candidate, Calder Trophy guy. How do you guys feel about Anaheim?
I feel okay about Anaheim. I think they're such an interesting mix of kind of like, yeah, there's some elite young players on this team, but I don't know, I keep trying to make excuses, but I kind of like their lineup. I'm not gonna lie, the more I look at it, it's kind of nice. But I don't think the young guys are going to be to the point where they can carry them into a potential playoff spot yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But I do like their lineup. I did not think it was this good.
Okay, so we'll get back to you so you can read the lineup. Jack, how do you feel about Anaheim's offseason?
They're another team I really like where they're going, but this is definitely going to be, I think, a growth year for their young players. There's going to be some growing pains. Mason McTavish is looking amazing. I remember when he was taken, it was seen as a bit of a stretch. He's already kind of shutting down those thoughts. So it'll be an exciting team to watch, but they're still a few years away.
Ryan, what does their lineup look like?
Yeah.
If you can rip through it quick.
Well, specifically their defense is actually very nice. Cam Fowler, John Klingberg, Vakanainen, is that how you pronounce that?
That sounds good.
Shattenkirk, Kulikov, and Drysdale. Like that's a pretty darn good top 6. And then you got John Gibson for now, at least.
They've also got Lucas Dostal coming up through the ranks. He's gonna be a good goalie.
Yeah. And no, but up front they still have like obviously Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, Ryan Strome now, Frank Vatrano, Mason McTavish, Silverberg. Lundestrom, he's a young player, right? He's supposed to. Yeah, he had 29 points in 80 games last year as a 22-year-old, so he could take a step. They're still looking pretty good to me. I flirted with changing them in my list here, but I think I'm going to stand pat.
And where would that be?
That would be in 6th position in the Pacific.
Okay. Jack, where do you have Anaheim?
7th in the Pacific, 12th in the West.
All right, we're looking good with lining up our picks. I've got Anaheim 7th, so not much excitement so far in the rankings. I mean, it's a team that they've traded away a lot of players in the last few years. They've still held on to John Gibson, so who knows? Maybe he has a bounce back year and they surprise. But they've got that young core. I like that they're not thrusting Jamie Drysdale into a trial by fire. They bring in Klingberg to sort of run that top power play and be that number 1 right-handed defenseman. I think Drysdale's right-handed, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And
Yeah.
even though like he wasn't really thrown to fire last year, he had 32 points in 81 games.
Yeah,
like,
no, he had a good season.
Solid.
But like I'm pretty sure analytically he was a bad defenseman last year, but that comes with being a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea of adding Klingberg to sort of take on that number one defenseman role. And obviously you've got Cam Fowler there. But yeah, honestly, I would probably have had the Ducks higher if they'd have changed their freaking jerseys to the Mighty Duck logo instead of that stupid ugly D.
Yeah, they are easily one of the worst jerseys in the league.
Like that jersey that Zegras posed in the NHL 23 pictures with, like that's got to be their main jersey now. Like you got to switch that. Come on.
A lot of people thought they might change just based on that photo, but
yeah, but oh well. 7th place, 7th for Jack, 6th for Ryan. Let's move on to the Vancouver Canucks. They had a weird offseason, I think. They seem like a team that doesn't really know what direction they're going in. They bring in Ilya Mikheyev on a 4-year, $4.75 million contract per season. Not loving that. Out the door, they see Yaroslav Halak and Brad Hunt go, and they extended JT Miller 7 years, $8 million per season for $56 million total. And they brought back Brock Besser as a restricted free agent, 3 years, $6.65 per season. Jack, how do you feel about the Canucks? Oh, sorry. What's up, Brian?
I just wanted to add one more thing. It wasn't really off. It wasn't really off season, I guess, but they added Kuzmenko too.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. He was a free agent coming over from Russia.
Yeah.
1 year entry level.
Okay. Jack, how do you feel about Vancouver?
I actually really like their offseason. I think Besser and Miller are two guys that kind of felt like they were going to be good as gone and get what you can for them. So I see bringing them back as a nice win. They made some small adds, and ultimately they have Thatcher Demko in net, and I see him as a top 5 goalie. So I have very high expectations for him to kind of drag them along this year.
Should we do position rankings soon?
If you want to.
I don't know. I think that'd be fun. Preseason position rankings. I don't know. Just from Jack saying Demko top 5. Anyway, not that I disagree. Okay, Ryan, how do you feel about Vancouver?
I feel okay about them. Like, I feel like they definitely had a decent, like, it was a decent offseason. But like you said, they are kind of directionless. Like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
This was the team that I flirted moving down with Anaheim. But I just think their forward group is a little bit too offensive. And like Jack said, just having Demko in the back there, I don't think they fall below the Ducks or teams in the bottom tier like that there. But they're kind of directionless. Yeah, they're a meh team.
I really don't like the all in sort of mentality that it seems like Vancouver has right now. I mean,
especially like, looking at that defense, like, do you see what this defense looks like right now? It's atrocious.
It's really not good. I mean, like not long ago, they were one of these like sexy young teams. Like Elias Pettersson was 20 years old, winning the Calder with like however many goals he had. And he was dubbed like the top under 23 player or something, or most potential or whatever. Quinn Hughes was battling Makar for the Calder trophy. It was like a historic battle for Calder. And now Makar's on a different stratosphere from Hughes. And like, I don't know, Hughes is such a one-dimensional player. Like, sure, he's a great offensive defenseman, but he's not really like the backbone of a D-core. And even Pettersson had an off year last year. And Besser's lost a step from his early career hype. And like, they could have gotten so much. They could have gotten so many assets for JT Miller.
It's Hughes and that's it on the back end. And that's what's super concerning. Like, yeah, like sure, Ekman Larson and Myers are there, but they're not. They're guys, right?
Yeah, and like Ekman Larson
at those cap hits.
Yeah, Ekman Larson's not even a guy. Like that's an albatross contract. And the thing that concerns me about Vancouver is that now you've got Bo Horvat, I think, as a UFA next offseason, and he's probably going to want $7 to $8 million a year. Like, do you really want him making that much money? Like, that's a guy that you want making that middle tier money. That's what makes you a good team. But once you start paying those guys a lot, that's when you start running into trouble. Same with a guy like JT Miller. And like Demko is going to want a shit ton of money soon too, in the next few years. And I don't know. I don't love their direction. Jack, how do you feel about those statements? in
I mean,
terms
I
of
don't
their
necessarily
direction.
argue with any of them. I think they are kind of a mismanaged team. They have a lot of bad contracts. Um, if I were to project kind of like their future for the next 3 years as opposed to next season, it would have been a lot more bleak. But I still am a firm believer in Demko being able to kind of make up for a lot of other mistakes.
Where do you guys have them in the Pacific?
Third.
I have them
Third. Interesting. I've got them fourth.
I have them.
I would have to look at who I have in the Central to see if I think Vancouver's a playoff team. Let's look.
I have them just outside.
I also have them just missing a wild card. But Jack, you've got them right there in the top three. Is that all like just because of how much you believe in Thatcher Demko?
And some regression to the mean for Pedersen as well.
Mm-hmm. And okay, yeah, and Pedersen's another guy who's going to need a contract soon. I don't know. I'm out on Vancouver. I don't love their team. Like they're a good mediocre team right now, but that's never a place you want to be in. And it looks like they might be locked into that situation for the next few years.
When your longest contract is Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you've got a problem.
That is a problem.
Well, he's tied with Quinn Hughes, but
all right, moving on to San Jose. They brought in Nico Sturm on a 3-year contract worth $2 million per season. They bring in Oscar Lindblom, 2 years, 2.5 per, and Luke Kunin, 2 years, 2.75 per. And they traded Brent Burns to Carolina in what was more or less a cap dump. I think they brought back a 3rd rounder and a goalie prospect. Rudolph Balcers and Ryan Dzingel also out the door. Some minor subtractions, but big name obviously there is Brent Burns. San Jose, a team that's been stuck in the basement the last few years. They haven't had any lottery luck, so they don't have any like super prospects. But Jack, how do you feel about the Sharks?
I mean, you want to talk about a team with no direction. Look no further. They've got those awful contracts. And I mean, Erik Karlsson's still just kind of there, making what, like 11.5.
Yeah.
Just a brutal way to start your roster payroll. They're definitely stuck. They can't fully tank, at least not well. As you said, they're not winning the lottery. They have some decent prospects, but they're definitely stuck.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Like Logan Couture's still there. They brought back Hurdle, which I think was a mistake. They should have traded him. Timo Meyer's there, but I think he's on a bridge deal right now. I'm not 100% sure about that.
He's actually he's an RFA next year.
Okay, so I think he's on the last year of his bridge deal. I think it was like 3x4 or something, 3x6, something like that. They've still got Vlasic. Like, who's in net for San Jose this year?
It is a James Reimer and Capo Kahokinen.
Kahokinen, there it is, Jack. Holy crap! Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like San Jose. I don't like where they're at. I've got them 8th. I don't have too much to say about them. They're going to be shitty. They're going to be in the Bedard sweepstakes.
Yeah, I have them dead last in the division as well. They are just nothing inspiring about this team.
Jack, where do you have to start? Same, 8th, unanimous 8th place. You heard it here first, folks. San Jose Sharks last place, trying to pick up Connor Bedard to make up for losing Josh Norris and Tim Stützle.
Happy 4 years, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was this week, wasn't it?
It was yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday. Okay. Interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's hit the Calgary Flames. Definitely the biggest offseason, so you're gonna have to give me a minute to go through the ins and outs. So they bring in Jonathan Huberdeau. He has 1 year left on a $5.9 million cap hit. They sign him to an 8-year extension worth 10.5 per season. They bring in Mackenzie Weegar, 1 year, 3.25. Nazem Kadri as a UFA, 7 years, $7 million per season. They bring in Kevin Rooney, 2 years, 1.3 per season. Out the door, they see Johnny Gaudreau bolt for Columbus. They traded Matthew Tkachuk's rights, in a sign and trade to the Flames. Kalle Yarncroke, Eric Goodbranson, and Sean Monahan all out the door. And they also signed extensions for Nikita Zadorov, 2 years, 3.75 per season. Andrew Mangiapane, 3 years at 5.8. And Oliver Shillington, 2 times 2.5, which is a contract I love. Ryan, how do you feel about the Flames offseason? They've definitely been the notable team all for the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I feel incredible about their offseason. Like, given the situation that they were given, like it's hard to believe that anyone's had a better offseason than him, than Treliving. Like, as much as we want to drool over what Pierre Dorion has done here in Ottawa, like, this guy was handed an absolute garbage pile of bad news and turned it into potentially a better team.
Yeah.
So I feel incredible about this team. I think we saw what they are capable of last year. They're a little bit different this year, but I think they're more well-rounded. So that will just overall help them out. And then Markstrom in net, I think he's going to have a bounce back. So I feel very good about them.
Jack, Flames, go.
Yeah, there's really, as Ryan said, they were handed a really tough situation. I think we talk about between their arena being in the state it's in and losing Goudreau and then potentially losing Kachuk. It could have been detrimental to the franchise, and they managed to turn it into a win. Yeah, I would say the most loaded defense in the league. And you really, as much as they're a well-rounded team, they're built for the coach they have, and they have a very unique coach, a very playoff-built system. And I think that's going to do wonders for them.
I think Kadri and Uyghur are going to fit in so well with Sutter's system.
Mhm.
It's going to be really cool to see, and that D is just ridiculous. Is this the most eventful offseason that you guys have ever seen for a single team? Like since you've been alive? That's the time.
100%, I would say.
Yeah,
probably. I think so too. The amount of like the ins and outs are just ridiculous. Like, it's literally like just like 5 all-stars just changing names courtesy of the Calgary Flames. It's just nuts. You don't see that in this league. And like Sean Monahan too, like that's a huge name. Like, I get he's fallen off, but like seeing him not in a Flames uniform next year is going to be weird. Just so much change. A lot of excitement at the hands of the Calgary Flames. It's going to be a fun team to watch.
Mhm.
And we just move across the conference, or not across the conference, across the province over to
I
Edmonton.
don't think we did
We
predictions.
didn't do a ranking.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Where do we got the Flames? I've got them second. I've got them taking a slight step back. I think they were perfect last year. I don't think they'll be perfect this year in the regular season. But that doesn't mean I think they're actually necessarily a worse team. I just don't think as many things go right for them this season. Like having 3 40-goal scorers on your first line. I've got them second.
Or like, what was it, 9 shutouts?
Yeah, like everything went right for them in the regular season last year. So I've got them regressing a little bit, but not significantly.
Yeah, I agree. I think they fall as second, but they are a better team, especially going into the playoffs.
Ryan,
I've still got them first.
nice.
They stay on top of the division. I love this team. They, like you said, defense is incredible, great goalie, and forwards are still very, very solid. So I take them to win the division.
Love it. All right, now let's move across the province to Edmonton. Another big offseason for a team in Alberta. They bring in Jack Campbell, 5 years, 5 per season. Matthias Janmark, 1 year, 1.25. They traded away Zach Cassian's contract to the Arizona Coyotes in a cap dump. Forget what they attached to that, but it was not insignificant.
First round pick down to the second round pick.
Oh,
it was like
13. Yeah, they just dropped down a few picks. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty good. Duncan Keith retired, which was an absolute blessing for this team. It was also hilarious to see that because the Chicago Blackhawks were trying to weaponize cap space, and they saw $5 million go out the door due to a player retiring on a different team, and they retained Evander Kane, 4 years, 5.125 per season. And they brought back Brett Kulak, who was supposedly going to be a deadline he was a deadline acquisition. Was supposed to be a rental. They brought him back 4 years, 2.75 a season. He was really good for them in the playoffs. Yeah, just a team that's been making good moves ever since Peter Chiarelli left, making more good moves. I really like how Edmonton looks. It's gonna be really cool to see Evander Kane get a full season with the Oilers. I think people are underrating that. Like, he could score 40 goals with this team. And I'm really excited about the Oilers, and I'm really excited about the Battle of Alberta this year. I think it's gonna be even better than last year. Jack, how do you feel about Edmonton?
I love it. I think an underrated kind of part of it is this is the first time McDavid's had a goalie.
Yeah.
Like a true, as much as you can, trust the goalie for 60 plus games. And I think that honestly will open him up offensively as well. which is kind of an underrated aspect of adding a goalie. He doesn't need to be, as much as he is offensive minded, he can be even more offensive minded. And yeah, Evander Kane, I think he'll score 40. And Kulak, I watched a lot of Kulak in Montreal, and he is a very nice addition on the contract they got him for. There's some holes in the roster, but they have maybe Colorado as the only other team with as much star power as they have, and that goes a long way.
I think it's a good thing when your biggest issue, in my opinion, with your roster is that you're paying your number one defenseman a few million too much. I think that means good things for the Edmonton Oilers in 2023. Ryan, how do you feel about Edmonton?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about them. I think where our slight differences may lay is that I'm not completely sold on Jack Campbell.
Okay.
I'm not, like, I watched a lot of games with him actually last year because I lived in a house with many Leafs fans, so the games were on all the time. And he did have an amazing stretch, but the majority of the season he was actually quite shaky. So I'm just not sold on him as a 60+ game starter yet. That's gonna really solidify a team. But like you said, their star power is ridiculous. This is still a very good team. The goaltending has improved for what it was last year, so give them some credit there too.
They're definitely taking a bet with Jack Campbell at that money in that term. But they've also got Stuart Skinner. So they're taking a bet on two guys sort of moving up in their roles. Like Jack Campbell being expected to be an elite starter for them at that cap hit in that term. Like they're going to want him playing 55, 60 games. And Stuart Skinner is going to step into a full-time backup role. But I like that bet more than Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith.
Oh yeah, I like it way better than what that was.
Yeah.
I'm just not sold on him being like a 60 game, like 35 win guy.
Yeah, of course.
That's just the thing though, is being quote unquote not sold on him is still the best goalie they've had in the McDavid era.
That's the thing. Yeah.
That's the absurd part of it.
You got to look at it relative to what Edmonton has had in the past, I think.
That's true.
But definitely a valid point. So I've got them first. I think they take the division. I think they're going to score a shit ton of goals. Obviously, like McDavid's going to go off. Draisaitl's going to do his thing. Evander Kane for the full season is going to be sick. Evan Bouchard, like he's a stud. Like I don't think he gets talked about enough in a Canadian market as a top defenseman. I think he's going to have a huge breakout season. But yeah, I've got Edmonton taking the division this year. How do you guys feel?
I have the same.
You have Calgary, you have Edmonton taking first, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay. And Ryan?
Yeah, and then I just have them second.
Okay, so basically just flip-flopping Calgary and Edmonton.
Yeah.
All right. The rankings have been a little boring in this one. Maybe they'll get a little bit more interesting as we get to these last two teams.
I was just gonna say I have a feeling the Central will be all over the place, but
I think the Central is going to be ridiculous. But let's wrap up the Pacific. We got two more teams left. The Los Angeles Kings, not a ton of moves, but they didn't really need to make any, and they made the right ones, I think. They bring in Kevin Fialis and then sign him 7 years, 7.875 per season. They traded a first and Brock Faber. I don't know what other piece. I think that might have been the only two, maybe another pick, to Minnesota to bring in Kevin Fiala and sign him. They see Andreas Athanasiou, Troy Stetcher, and Oli Mata. The three of those guys walked, and they extended Adrian Kempe at 4 years, $5.5 million per season in what I think is a massive bargain contract. I love LA. I love what they're doing. I find it incredible that they're this good, despite almost none of their massive prospects breaking out and even becoming complete and utter busts. Like, I think I'm comfortable with calling Alex Turcotte more or less a bust. You'd think Byfield would have contributed at the NHL level by now. He hasn't. I'm not calling him a bust. I think he's still got a ton of room to grow, obviously. But then they also have had a ton of guys just not hit. And for a team that had an absolutely loaded prospect pool within the last 3 or 4 seasons, to be where they are with almost no contributions from a lot of those guys, or at least the high end ones, is incredible. Ryan, how do you feel about the Kings?
Oh, this is going to be probably my hottest take in this division, but I think that they make a big step and are certainly getting into the playoffs.
They made the playoffs last year.
Well, yeah, but like I didn't want to say my ranking.
Crushed
exactly.
his fucking
I didn't want to
speech.
say my ranking exactly, but
Okay.
I'll just say it. I have them third. Like I have them.
Okay.
Like I don't have them in a wild card conversation. I have them in the top three. The only thing I'm not sold on is goaltending with Jonathan Quick at 36 years old and Cal Peterson with I don't think his stats were that great last year. I don't know what they were off the top of my head.
And they gave him $5 million a year.
Yeah,
that was a weird one.
But I don't know. I feel something good about this team. The addition of Kevin Fiala is incredible for them. I think we see the real Quinton Byfield this year. He's going to start producing. So I have them making the playoffs and solidly.
Still got Dano, still got Kopitar, still got Doughty. Like all those guys are still there too. Jack, how do you feel about the Los Angeles Kings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling the same way. I feel good about them. They're, as you said, one of the best prospect cores, and I think this is the year they take a step. The goaltending is a bit of a question mark, but the Kempe contract is an absolute steal.
Yeah.
The Fiala one is lower than I expected it to be. And those are two huge weapons coming in, or Kempe's returning, but two huge weapons up front. And a thing to remember too about their prospects is the majority of them were centers. So guys like Byfield, guys like Turcotte, guys like Gabe Velarde, they've been battling each other just to get AHL ice time, let alone fit into the NHL roster at a middle or top six role. So I think I wouldn't call them bust yet. I think it's been slowed down because there's just been so much competition.
Can you imagine? I
do think this is the year where some take a step forward, specifically Byfield.
Can you imagine what this team will look like with Kopitar, who is a perennial Selke candidate, Philip Deneau, who's one of the best defensive centers in the NHL, and a broken out Quinton Byfield? Can you imagine that team down the middle? Like, that's disgusting. That'll be a really good team. And I'm right there with you, Ryan. I've got them third. I don't think
L on me then, because I totally thought having them third was going to be a hot take. So.
And it's also funny because they finished third in the division last year. I wasn't going to say anything.
Really?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
You crushed them once already. I didn't want to mention it.
I know. I didn't want to shut them down again. I wanted it to wait until we gave our rankings.
You might have to quit the podcast.
I didn't look at any rankings from last year. I just knew that they weren't solidly in the playoffs.
No, they didn't feel like a third place team. I totally get why that felt that way, but it was funny because I don't know. It was funny. Yeah, Jack, where do you have the Kings?
Fourth in the division.
I was hoping you would say third too. That would have been so funny.
I already said Vancouver for third though.
No, I know. I know.
Clearly weren't listening.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to memorize all of your rankings for the last 40 minutes while I'm talking about all the other teams. Exactly. All right, we got 5 minutes left, which will definitely be enough time. Although this might be our most interesting ranking. Lastly, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights. Their major additions include Phil Kessel, 1 year, 1.5. They acquired Aiden Hill very recently from San Jose, and future considerations. Out the door, they see Max Pacioretty, who was traded away in exchange for future considerations. Evgeny Dadonov traded to the Montreal Canadiens in a cap dump. They brought in Shea Weber's contract. Dylan Coughlin was also traded, and Matthias Janmark. Coughlin went to Carolina with Pacioretty. I'm absolutely butchering this right now. Robin Lehner is going to be on LTIR to start the season and for the entirety of the season, as we now know. And they retained Riley Smith, 3 years, $5 million a year, and they brought back Nick Roy, 5 years, $3 million a year. I hate this team right now. I really don't like them. I don't like how their roster is built. I think it's Jack Eichel. Oh my God. Jack Eichel and just a bunch of guys. Mark Stone, I guess, too, if he's healthy. But Pietrangelo took a huge step back last year. Shea Theodore was being wasted on this team. Their goalie situation is just so bad. Phil Kessel could have a cool season. It'll be interesting. It'll be nice. It'll be interesting to see him back in sort of a spotlight market. but I don't know. Bringing back Riley Smith and then trading away Max Pacioretty for nothing is crazy. It looks decent now with Pacioretty's injury, but still, that's a nutty decision at the time. I don't know. What do you guys think about the Golden Knights? I know we've voiced our displeasure about them in the past on the podcast, but now just a moment. Jack, how do you feel?
I don't really have much else to say. I hate them. I hate the way. I'm still mad they didn't pick Aces as their name. I hate the way they built their roster and how they treat their players. I don't really like their uniform either, if I'm being honest.
They're changing them too. They're going full gold for their full-time home jerseys.
I don't like that either.
No, it's a mistake. Those are the ugliest jerseys in the league.
Yeah, it's rough. Despite all that, they have somehow patched together a decent roster. As much as I would like to see them crash and burn, they're still going to be a competitive team.
Okay, Ryan, what do you got?
I feel the exact same way. They're just a garbage team who doesn't respect their players, essentially. Like something came out this week too that Nicholas Hague hasn't heard from them since like July or something, and
That's
he still
nuts.
doesn't have a contract.
He's
and
like
Paul Stastny picked Carolina for less money.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Nick Hague is like their third best defenseman.
Yeah. Anyways, I think they are still a decent roster, but like Jack covered, they are poo-poo in my head.
Where do you got them?
I have them in the wild card spot, 4th.
Jack?
And 5th, taking the second wild card.
I also have them 5th. By default, I guess taking the wild card, but I like Vancouver more. So I'm going to say Vancouver gets that last wild card and Vegas misses the playoffs again. The West is kind of top heavy, eh? Like there's some mushy teams in the middle there, and the bottom teams are really bad.
Yeah.
Like those 6, 7, 8, like those last 3 playoff seeds in the West are not going to be that good of teams. But yeah, so that's it for the Pacific. Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's time to do the Central Division. I kind of butchered Vegas. I think my brain's a little tired right now. But unless you guys have anything else on the Pacific Division, let's hop over and do the Central.
Yes, sir.
All right, hit the outro.